It seems like LEGO sets just keep getting better and better every year. With so many quality builds coming out, I figured it was time to highlight some of the cleverest and most unique building techniques found in recent LEGO sets. Over the last few years, the LEGO Botanicals line has grown to become one of the company's most successful themes, thanks to the set's perfect balance of beauty, affordability, and overall brilliant designs. These sets routinely make use of rare or unique elements, combined with novel and genius building techniques to create some of LEGO's most detailed and varied builds. In 2024, LEGO released a set of 4 new plants based on the 4 noble flowers in traditional Chinese art. They are the plum blossom, orchid, bamboo, and chrysanthemum. I specifically want to focus on the chrysanthemum. If you look closely at the flower's petals, you'll quickly notice several very familiar pieces. It's well known at this point that LEGO has a bit of an obsession with bananas, and this build takes that to the next level. You'll use a total of 20 orange bananas, 8 reddish-orange bananas, and 8 yellowish-orange bananas over just 3 short pages, with step 46 requiring 18 of them at once. And although this idea may sound bananas, it works really well here. One other thing I want to point out about this set is the great way that the designers created 3 different stages of growth for the flower. While the bananas are used for the fully mature blossom, a bit lower down, we can see a slightly younger flower made using 16 of these bright orange claws. Furthermore, we've also got 2 small buds made up of a handful of small parts. In fact, there's also a hilarious banana usage that I spotted in the 2025 version of the Lucky Cat. One of the last things that you'll need to do here is to give the cat a tail. Well, what better piece for that than a single white banana? I do think it's comical just how small it is compared to the rest of the build, but maybe that's exactly what the designer intended. Turning back to a new plant set, the mini bonsai trees from 2025 are a fantastic follow-up to the legendary set that started it all. And much like the original, LEGO chose to go a little overboard with using a single piece. This set features 3 different types of trees, and each one does something a little different that's worth highlighting. The ginkgo biloba tree looks spectacular with its fall foliage, made using 36 yellowish-orange butterflies attached to 12 yellow limb elements, which is a new color for that piece. Next to that, the wisteria tree is easily the most colorful of the bunch with its vibrant lavender flowers. These flowers are surprisingly detailed little builds that each use 8 different tiny parts. However, you do need to build them 12 times, which could be enjoyable or just incredibly tedious depending on what you think is fun. Lastly, the Japanese black pine makes use of a whopping 72 Wolverine claws for the tree's needles, which is honestly pretty crazy. It looks great from the side, but a little empty in the middle when you look at it from the top. Now, another set that uses a similar technique is the small but insanely dense Fountain Garden from 2025. This set is somewhat small, considering it has 1,302 pieces, but that just means that it's packed full of little details and clever assemblies. Near the very end of the build, you'll need to put together these 2 cypress trees that sit in the center of the display. These are rather straightforward overall, but much like the Japanese maple, make brilliant use of those same green claw elements. This time, you'll need to use a total of 64 of these parts, and then top each tree off with one of these earth green crystals that are unique to this set. Sticking with nature for a bit, but moving from plants to animals, the LEGO Ideas Insect Collection from 2023 came with 1,111 parts to build 3 incredibly detailed models of some larger-than-life bugs. I've got to say that this was a super great concept for a set. So often LEGO is used to create smaller scale versions of massive machines or buildings, so getting to scale something up for a change was a genuine treat. The fact that these feature some of the very best parts usages that I've ever seen is just icing on the cake. I don't have time to go over everything hidden in here, but one of my favorite bits is the use of these sand green revolvers as the mantis's feet, which are a clever addition, as well as the 2 gold crowbars used to form the antennae. I've also got to point out the hilarious use of these 2 white croissants under the beetle to represent a couple of larvae. Moving on to another one of LEGO's most consistently impressive lines, the Speed Champions theme has been delivering hit after hit for years now. While the line still primarily focuses on real-world cars, they've been gradually branching out into famous movie cars as well, and the new 2026 Time Machine from Back to the Future might be the best version of this car that we've ever gotten. With 357 parts, this is far smaller than the 1,872-piece LEGO Icons 2022 version, but it's a massive step up in terms of design design from the slightly abysmal 2013 rendition when looking back at it, with its slightly larger piece count of 401 bricks. While it is a little unfair to compare it to the much larger set, comparing it to the first version is like night and day. The 2013 DeLorean had no windows, a bland gray design, and couldn't even fit more than a single minifigure, which, for a car that's 10 studs wide, was super disappointing back in the day. Overall, this first version wasn't terrible when we originally got it, but it definitely left a lot to be desired. Well, 12 years later, LEGO was finally ready to take another stab at it, and the results speak for themselves. For one, the new version now has a full set of windows, which really helps sell the realism. In addition, it can now comfortably hold 2 minifigures, making it far more fun and accurate to the original films. It's also worth pointing out the binoculars at the top of the car, as well as all of the new transparent blue elements that really tie the whole thing together. Moving on though, I've got to talk about the naming of these 3 cars. It's not uncommon for LEGO to release multiple versions of the same vehicle, and naming them can be a bit repetitive. For example, they've released more than 40 different versions of the X-Wing, from tiny polybags to massive UCS sets, and most of these are named some sort of variation of X-Wing Fighter, X-Wing Starfighter, or Resistance X-Wing. However, the 3 versions of this car have some of the most confusing names I've ever seen. The 2013 original version is officially known as the DeLorean Time Machine. The 2022 Icons version was released with the name Back to the Future Time Machine, and the recent version for 2026 has the all too similar name Time Machine from Back to the Future. If I had to guess, I'd assume there was some sort of licensing issue with DeLorean, the car company, which is why that's not in the name of the set, but it's just super confusing that all 3 of these sets have such similar names. Moving on though, another one of LEGO's newest, most meticulously detailed vehicle sets is this pair of Lamborghinis, which many fans have claimed is one of the best designed sets of 2025 as a whole. The amount of detail that the set's designer crammed into these 2 cars is truly jaw-dropping. Perhaps my favorite detail here is the taillights on the orange car, made up of a few red stick pieces. Right next to that, the exhaust makes brilliant use of these tile shooters. If you look very closely at the front of the car, you might notice 2 oddly shaped pieces front and center. These are actually a pair of orange cleavers that are unique to this set. One last detail that I want to point out here is the side view mirrors of each car. Both cars use effectively the same technique that adds a quarter round tile to a 1x1 stud with clip and then attaches that to a small round plate with a shaft. This is a super simple setup and perfectly captures the real look of the cars. Oh, and I love how the orange Lambo can have the mirrors in either orange or black. Very cool. As great as the Speed Champions line is, they're far from the only LEGO vehicles to feature some genius techniques. 2025's Hagrid and Harry's motorcycle ride is a very fun build that makes the most out of its 617 parts. Overall, the design of the build is great, with the motorcycle and sidecar. These are completely independent builds that are pretty easy to separate. Once you've put that all together, it's time for the biggest chunk, as Hagrid himself takes up all of bags 5, 6, and 7. Overall, the Hagrid build is quite good, with a nice attention to detail and some clever designs, particularly around the arms. Building arms that are both movable and good looking can be difficult, but the designers here did a great job. I really like how the shoulders use these 2x4 and round 2x2 Technic plates to attach to a blue Technic pin. My favorite bit though is definitely the use of these big fig hands in light nougat. Not only is this a perfect fit for the size and scale of this Hagrid build, but this is only the second time that we've gotten these parts in this color after 2019's surprisingly similar Junkrat and Roadhog from the short-lived Overwatch theme. While the end design of Hagrid is great, his pose is a bit awkward if he's not on his bike. Another Harry Potter set worth mentioning is Privet Drive, Aunt Marge's Visit. This was released exactly 6 months after the Hagrid and Harry set. The most standout feature of this set is Aunt Marge herself, who is, without a doubt, one of the most original and unique minifigures I've ever seen. Made up of these 2 domes that debuted in the Mars Crew Exploration rover, as well as a printed 2x2 dome for the head, this is certainly a unique method to create a minifigure. I really love it when LEGO experiments with minifigures like this, and this is definitely one of the most obscure yet smart designs they've ever made. While the overall design of the house itself is pretty standard, there's a little more going on in the set that's worth mentioning. Up on the roof, we've got a silver stand holding a fork of the same color that perfectly matches the antenna seen in the films. Nothing wild, but a great attention to detail and the perfect piece to accomplish this task. It's also worth highlighting the sticker on the front door. where we can see the mail slot is still boarded up from the massive flood of Harry's Hogwarts acceptance letters. Oh, and I have to point out something that I've never seen in any other LEGO set before, an electrical outlet. At the bottom of the stairs, just outside of Harry's old bedroom, there's a 1x1 printed tile showing a UK power outlet. This piece has only ever appeared in this set, as well as 2024's The Burrow Collector's Edition, and I'd love to see more little real-world details like this in some other sets. Unfortunately though, not all LEGO pieces are as perfect. Click here to learn about the LEGO piece that always broke and caused a nightmare for LEGO and fans. Also, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next video.